Hare Krishna, good morning dear devotees from Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. This is our 56th session, calling Meeting in Kurukshetra. My name is Madhavananda Das. We're inching our way along, as Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj commented, on our way to the meeting in Kurukshetra and all the before that. We've been reading from the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, which speaks about the Bhramara-gita, or Radharani's mad talks to the bumblebee. In this session today, we're going to continue with the connections between this 47th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhāgavatam, which is known as the Bhramara-gita, and the Jagannath Puri sannyāsa-līlā of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we're going to try to conclude our presentation on this connection with some verses from Caitanya-bhāgavata, Caitanya-maṅgala and Prema-vilāsa. So we'll begin with a few prayers. Gora graganya gana gocha goloruhadam Goranga gudatama gopyada kopa briksham Gopala gada ratidam yati singha gora Govinda deshi kavaram satatam namami Narayanam namaskrityam naramschaiva narotamam Devim sadasvatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat Vedi ramayaneschaiva purane bhadate tata Adhavante cha madhye cha hari sarvatra giyate Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yet kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda He Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinka Name Vandavela Parikori Be Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Padaye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Good morning, dear devotees from Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. This is our 56th session in Meeting in Kurukshetra. This is the 9th part of the Bhramara-gita. My name is Madhavananda Das, and we want to try to finish off speaking about the connections in this session between the 47th chapter, the 10th canto, this Bhramara-gita, and the Puri sannyāsa-līlā of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I want to welcome all of our friends. Ujjwala Rasaga is here, and Brinda Sundari and Natalia. And I want to request everybody, if you have any reflections or comments at the end, please share those in the comment thing. I really appreciate that very much. So we've been speaking on the 4th verse from the 47th chapter, a particular line where the gopis there speak to Uddhava, and they say that Sneha Bando Bandhanam Munir Api Sudustyaja. That it's very, very difficult to give up the bonds of affection for one's family members. And in his commentary, Sa'artha Darshani commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains these three words, Munir, Api, Sudusyaja. Muni meaning a sage, and he says it means Muni krita sannyasa syapi dusyaja, that even munis who take sannyas, they find it hard to give up the relationship with their father and mother. But the gopis are saying that Krishna very easily showed his renunciation by giving up all the gopis. Just see how severe Krishna's renunciation is. In other words, the gopis are speaking according to man, they're speaking according to some sulky anger, and they're saying that the reason why Uddhava was sent by Krishna was not to pacify the gopis, but it's just because people were going to criticize him if he didn't show attachment to his mother. In other words, Krishna's more attached to his mother and father than he is to the gopis. So to refute that from the gopis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, and he left his mother to run to Radharani in Jagannath Puri. So we've been inching our way in this topic because it's a very, very esoteric topic. Just looking back very briefly, in the Ancha-līlā chapter 14, there's a very esoteric chapter which speaks about the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Gambhira spoken by Mahaprabhu himself to Roy Ramananda and Shubh Damodar. He said that he put his arms around them and he sang these verses. This is a song of the Kapalika yogi. And who is that Kapalika yogi? We heard something from the poet Vidyapati Das, who Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was hearing about from Roy Ramananda and Shubh Damodar. In Vidyapati, he speaks in one song that Radharani says, Kalika Kamala Iha Nahai Kapala. That, my dear Cupid, don't be angry with me. I'm not Lord Shiva. This is a lotus flower in my hand. It's not a skull. So we were showing how there's some connection between this song and this very esoteric song of the Kapalika Yogi in the 14th chapter of the Ancha-līlā of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and how in that 14th chapter, Prabhupada comments about these things of Kapalika Yogi. He says that it's clearly metaphorical, and within this chapter, we find that Mahaprabhu is speaking about the Dasami Dasa. And this is something we're going to come explore quite a bit at length later on. This Dasami Dasa, these are 10 different symptoms or stages of separation, which is known as Sudura Prabhas. There's 4 different types of general separation, and one of them is called Prabhas. Prabhas means separation from a distance. There's 2 types of Prabhas. Dura Prabhas, when Krishna goes to herd the cows in Kamyavan or some forest of Braj, and the gopis can't see him for 3 or 4 hours. That's called Dura Prabhas. But Sudura Prabhas is when Krishna leaves Vrindavan and he goes to Mathura or Dwarka, and the gopis, they don't know if they're going to ever see him again or not. So Krishna has to repay his debt to the gopis, and as we've commented, that debt is calculated according to the highest amount owed, and that highest amount owed is at the place known as Uddhava Keri, where the Bhramara-gita was spoken. And this Bhramara-gita, some Vaishnavas say, is the most important chapter of the Bhāgavatam because it indicates Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So looking back, just reviewing a little bit from this 14th chapter of the 10th canto, the song of the Kapalika Yogi, Mahaprabhu tells Shubh Damodar and Roy Ramananda the Chinta Kanta Udigai. He mentions these 2 words, Chinta and Kanta, that in this great anxiety, I can't even cover my body properly. I'm just using this old torn quilt. So this is, and then he mentions Malinakai. Malinakai means that my body's become dirty. Then he mentions Pralap. So this Chinta, this Malinakai, and this Pralap, these are 3 symptoms of Dasami Dasa, of Sudura Prabhas. Chinta is the first symptom, which means anxiety. And Malinangata means that the body's become unclean. That's the 5th symptom. And the 6th symptom is Pralap, one begins to speak like a madman. So already in this 14th chapter, Mahaprabhu speaks about how the yogi of my mind, this Kapalika yogi, it's gone to Vrindavan, and it's hearing from Sukadeva Goswami, and in particular hearing from this Bhramara-gita. So there's a connection between these two. And this Bhramara-gita foretold and is a cause for Gaura-līlā. Again, in text 51 of this chapter, Mahaprabhu tells him, Sevi yogi dasa dasa hoy. He mentions directly this dasa dasa, these 10 different transcendental symptoms. And so we spoke about how if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not come, Jadi Gora na hoita, tabi ki hoito kemani daritam de radhara mahima prema-vilāsa singa jagate janato ke. The poet Basu Ghosh has written that if Mahaprabhu hadn't come, then how would we been able to understand Srimati Radharani? So Mahaprabhu, in the song of the Kapalika yogi, he's relishing the mood of Srimati Radharani, Radharani's feelings of renunciation. And we sung a song from a rare song by the poet Yadunath Das, a 500-year-old song. Is one of the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he speaks about the feelings of Srimati Radharani. And Radharani says that Kalamani Keramala Ganti Nibagali Kanu Guna Yasa Ami Pori Vikundale, that I'm going to take sannyas and I'm going to wear a necklace out of black stones, which are the color of Krishna, and very boldly I'm going to hang it around my neck because I'm going to show my attachment to Krishna. Usually Radharani and the gopis are shy about that, but now Krishna's gone and they just don't care because they become completely mad. And Kanuguna Yasa Ami Paribe Kundale, I'm going to wear earrings of the qualities and fame of Krishna. So, and then she says, Kanu Anuraga Ranga Basana Poriye. This is our topic we want to focus on more today. How Radharani says, I'm going to wear saffron color. I'm going to take sannyas. I'm going to become a yogini. And Desi Bharami but yogini hoya. I'm going to become a yogini sannyasini, and I'm going to wander about from place to place. So this foretells the sannyasa Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in our last session, we sung a very rare song, which we translated for the first time ever in English by Srila Ramananda Roy. We published in issue 111 of our Bindu magazine. If someone wants to see that song, they can go back and look at that. And it speaks something about the feelings of Sachimata when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to take sannyas. And then we also spoke something from Caitanya-bhāgavata in Mahaprabhu's words to his mother, because this sannyas, as we mentioned from this 4th verse of the 47th chapter, the 10th canto, it's Mahaprabhu's relationship with his mother is indicated by Krishna's relationship with Mother Yashoda, and the gopis are saying that the only reason why Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan is because he's attached to his mother. And so to show the gopis that's not actually true, I'm more attached to you than to my mother, he has to give up his mother in Gaura-līlā. And so we've been speaking about Mahaprabhu's words to his mother. And in the Caitanya-bhāgavata, in the Madhya Kanda, chapter 27, it describes something of Mahaprabhu's words to his mother, and this is where we're starting today. Prabhu deki janarira jivanana rahe, nibrite vasya kichu gopya kata kahe, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Prabhu deki, seeing a jana ira jivana narahe. Jana ira means his mother. The jivana narahe, that she's not going to be able to live without me. Therefore, nibrita basi, he took her to a secluded place. Just like the gopis took Uddhava to a secluded place when he came to Vrindavan. Nibriti basi means a solitary place. Kichu gopya kata kahe. and Mahaprabhu spoke some Gopya Katha. What does Gopya Katha mean? Gopi means someone who hides. So this word in Bengali here means Gopya Katha. It means that he spoke something very confidential to his mother. Because he has to give her up. How can he give up his mother? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not a brahmachari, he's a mamachari. He's so attached to his mother. But he has to give up his mother. And there's something which is even more powerful than the love of Mother Yashoda, which is dragging him away, and that's the love of Srimati Radharani. And to show those gopis that no, it's not true. It's not true. You're saying that I care more about my mother than I do you. He has to give up his mother. So then Mahaprabhu, he goes on to tell his mother that don't feel bad. Actually, you and I have this very, very, very esoteric, very special relationship. Aro dui janma e sankirtana rambe Hoiba tomara putra ami avilambe ha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says that Sankirtana Arambe, to establish this Sankirtan movement, while doing it, Aro Dui Janma, I'm going to take 2 more births as your son. What does that mean? Mora Archa Murti Mata Tumi Se Dharani Jiva Rupa Tumi Mata Namira Janani He Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Mora Archa Murti Mata, Mother, I might form as a deity, the Murti. Tumi Sedharani, you're my mother as the earth. The earth, she gives birth in the form of the stone for the deity. So you're my mother as the deity form. And Jiva Rupa Tumi Mata, you're also my mother. When I come, Namera Janani, when I come in the form of the holy names, you're my mother as Jiva Rup, as the tongue in which everybody's chanting my name. So we should offer our pranams every day to Sachi Mata if we want Krishna in the form of his name to appear on our tongue, because she's the mother of that holy name. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on to console his mother. He says, Ei mata tumi amar mata janme janme tomara amara kabu tyaga nahi marme. He said, my dear mother, amara mata janme janme, you're my mother birth after birth. Tomara amara kabu tyaga nahi marme. There's never any separation between us. Tyaga nahi mami, I can't really give you up. He's giving her up. He's leaving, he's taking sannyas. He's saying, but it's apara vichar. It's just an apparent consideration. In tattva vichar, in the absolute consideration, I can never give you up. Mahaprabhu says, I've told you all this so you shouldn't feel any more grief. Don't lament. So now I'd like to go to a verse from the Caitanya-bhāgavata by Lochan Das Thakur, where he speaks something about the very amazing renunciation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay? Now let's remember, we're speaking on this 4th verse from the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, and in particular we're speaking about Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation of the words Snehanu Bando Bandhanam Munir Api Sudusyaja, the gopis' words to Uddhava, where they tell Uddhava the real reason why Krishna's come is not because of us, but because it's very difficult even for a sage to give up attachment to his family members. And Vishwanath explains it again, Mune Krita Sannyasa Syapi Dusyaja. Even munis have taken sannyas, find it hard to give up their relationship with their father and mother. So this is a very, very esoteric sannyasa, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lochan Das Thakur, he describes in his introduction to the Caitanya-māṅgala, when he speaks about the different subjects that he's going to talk about in the book, he says, in the 113th verse of Caitanya-maṅgala. Onika rahasya kata kahibata hate vairagya adbhuta prabhu ute jena mate Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. He says, Oneka rahasya kata kahibata hate. I'm going to tell you many rahasya katas, many secret things, many confidential things, such as vairagya adbhuta prabhu ute jena mati, such as the amazing vairagya adbhuta, the amazing renunciation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why is that so amazing, his renunciation? As we sometimes comment, the question is not, why did Caitanya Mahaprabhu take sannyas? If you say, why did he take sannyas? Then you don't understand Gaura Lila. It means you don't understand rasa. The question is not, why did he take sannyas? The real question is, how could he take sannyas? Hari Bhakti Sudhadoya, 1429 describes Krishna. Lord Nrsimhadev tells Prahlad, Sada muktopi badhosmi, bhaktena sneha rajubi, ajitopi jito aham, taravasopi vasikritaha. He says, Sada muktopi. I am always free and independent. Sada muktopi. That's me. But badhosmi. I become bound up. Bhaktena sneha rajubi. By the rope of love of my devotees. I can't repay my debt to them. So this is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Although the question is not, why did he take sannyas from leave Sachimata? The question is not why, but the real question is not why, but the real question is, how could he take sannyas? Because he's bound up with the rope of love of his mother. There had to be something which is even more powerful than the love of his mother. For that mamachari, that devotee who's so attached, he's a devotee of his mother, for him to give her up. There's nothing wrong with her love. But there had to be something even more powerful which dragged him away and took him away. In the Prema-vilāsa, wonderful book by the disciple of Janava Mata, who she gave him the name, the author Nityananda Das. It's a pretty good name from the wife of Janava Mata, from the wife of Lord Nityananda. She told him to write about Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. And in the 7th chapter of Prema-vilāsa, there's a conversation between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lokanath Goswami, and he speaks something very confidential there. This conversation took place in East Bengal, which currently today Bangladesh. And Mahaprabhu, when he was leaving Lokanath Goswami, he began to explain to him the esoteric inner reason for his sannyāsa-līlā. And he tells Lokanath Goswami, Sakadasa pita mata jera shevanchita Sabhi sake gana jane chera she mohita he Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. He says, Lokanath Goswami, you don't understand. I have this debt. I told the gopis, Napariyeham niravadhyasam yujam. You put me in your debt. And he says, Sakadasa pitta mata jerasi vanchita. My friends, my Saka, my Dasa, my servants, my Pitta and Mata, my father and mother, jerasi vanchita. They're cheated. They don't understand this rasa. Sabhi sakigana jane jerase mohita. Only the gopis understand it. This is my internal purpose for coming. I have to show the gopis that what they said to Uddhava is not true. It's not true that I sent Uddhava only to console my mother and that I'd taken sannyas to give up the gopis. No, my sannyas is something much, much deeper. And he goes on to Lokanath Goswami. Guni prite tanrasthane hai acharini Tomashtani Lokanata Kohilama Ami. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says, Gune Prite Tanastani. That the qualities of the love that Radharani has. Hai Acharini, I become a rini, I become a debtor. Tomastani Lokanath, Kohi Lama Ami, O Lokanath Goswami, I'm in debt to her. And therefore, on the third day of the month of Magh, I'm going to take sannyas and leave home. And by doing that, I'll become the guru of all the Brahmins who carry dandas. For the sake of these Brahmins, I'll take sannyas. I'll leave my home and I'll move from country to country. Some people say this is why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took who was performing his Sankirtan, his kirtan in the house of Srivas Pandit. There was one Brahmin who wanted to come to see the dancing and chanting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they said, sorry, probation shade, entrance forbidden. Just like what they tell us here in Jagannath Puri when we want to go to the temple, entrance forbidden. And that Brahmin became very angry. And he cursed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that you'll never enjoy family life. You have to leave family life. So Mahaprabhu said, okay, very good. Very, very nice curse. I like this very much. This is also mentioned in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, in the song of the Avanti Brahman, that mentioning how the Lord will take sannyas and go to the forest. This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he'll go there to preach for the sake of all living entities. He'll take sannyas and he'll go from country to country. But then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Lokanath Goswami, Ebhaya vichara manira asai suno Lokanatha iha kahila nishchay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Radhikara Bhavalana Sabha Prayojan Keva Bhuje Keva Shune Jay Moraman. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. He says, but Lokanath, this purpose for preaching, Ebhaya Vichar, this is my external consideration. Suno Lokanath, I'm going to tell you something very confidential. Radhikara Bhavalana Sabha Prayojan. Sabha Prayojan, my only purpose, my only necessity is to accept the mood of Srimati Radharani. Keba Bhuji Keba Shuni Jay Moraman. Who is there who can understand, who can even hear and understand the state of my mind? Who understands Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? How can we understand the song of the Kapalika Yogi in the 14th chapter, the Sannyāsa-līlā, unless we see the connection between the 47th chapter, the 10th canto, the Bhramara-gita, and the song in the 14th chapter of Sannyāsa-līlā, the song of the Kapalika Yogi. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on to tell something very confidential to Lokanath Goswami. Mora ange bharana basana radagai e lagi nila bastre shuka ati pai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says, Srimati Radharani, Mora Angara Bharana Basana Radhagai. Radharani becomes so happy wearing blue garments. Because A Lagi Nila Bastra Sukha Atipai. Sukha Atipai, she gets so much happiness in it because those blue garments are the color of my complexion. This color of the garments of Radha and Krishna has a very, very esoteric purport. Amara bichede pare aguna basana Apanake nija dase mani sarvakshana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says, but amara vichedu. When Radharani feels separation from me, then pari aruna basana. Then she starts wearing saffron-colored cloth. And at that time, apanake nija dasi mani sarvakshan. She thinks of herself as my maid servant. In separation, during this Sudura Prabhas, when Krishna's left Vrindavan, he's gone to Mathura and Dwarka, and the gopis don't know if they'll ever see him again or not. At that time, Srimati Radharani wears the saffron-colored cloth. Some Vaishnavas have said that this saffron-colored cloth is there because sometimes Srimati Radharani, when in separation from Krishna, she wears either saffron color or sometimes she wears white color. That white color indicates her man, her sulkiness, because that white color is the color of the lady's renunciation. It means that my husband has left me and I don't have anything. So Radharani, sometimes she wears that white color. Krishna's left me, he's given me up, he's not going to come back. She wears that white color like that. But Radharani begins crying and crying in her separation. And on the breasts of Srimati Radharani, there's kumkum, saffron-colored kumkum. And when Radharani begins to cry and cry, her tears mix with the kumkum on her breasts, which indicate the feelings of her heart. And when those tears mix with that kumkum, it makes the cloth saffron-colored, which is the color of separation. And this is the color of sannyas, of renunciation in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line. So Mahaprabhu goes on to tell Lokanath Goswami, Amara lagiya radha adi sakhi gan, virahe vyakula hoya tejila jivan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Amihate jiva pran, tanhara lagiya, se dashahibe tume shunibe takiya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Amara lagiya radha adi sakigan, virahe vyakula hoy tejila jivan. Feeling separation from me, virahai vyakula hoy tejila jivan. The gopis and Radha adi sakigan, they've given up their lives. This is a very, very esoteric point. In the Lalita Madhav of Rupa Goswami, in the 4th act, Rupa Goswami describes Unmadana Radha, which is also the discussion of the Bhramara-gītā. Unmadana Radha means mad Radha. The Bhramara-gītā means the madness of Radha. And in Lalita Madhav, Rupa Goswami says at the height of her madness of separation from Krishna, Radharani does something inconceivable, the most ghastly, terrible thing. Very, very difficult for the devotees to understand Lalita Madhav. It's said there that Radharani went and drowned herself in the Jamuna. She committed suicide. And then she came out of the Jamuna. The Jamuna is the daughter of Suryadev. She came out of the Jamuna and she offered this wonderful jewel from the head of the demon Shankachuta. And that jewel became the Shamantaka jewel, and Radharani then was given to Satyajit, and she became known as Satyabhama. So my Guru Maharaj used to say that the bhajan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a desire for death, because Mahaprabhu is trying to understand the mood of the gopis. And what is the mood of the gopis? Virahe vyakula hoy telya jivan. They want to give up their lives. They want to die. They want to commit suicide. And so Mahaprabhu tells Lokanath Goswami, Amihate jiva pran tanahar lagiya. I'm also going to give up my life. Say dasa, you're going to see me in that dasa, that's 10 feelings of separation. You're going to see me, because this sannyas means sudura prabhas. The sannyasa of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with this thing which Lochandas Thakur calls adbhuta vairagya, the astonishing renunciation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why is it so astonishing? Because it's the mood of Radharani. It's so astonishing because how could he give up his mother? That personality who's a brahmachari, who's so attached to his mother, but he gives her up. To prove to the gopis that my attachment for you is greater even than my attachment from my mother. And this is a connection we see in this 4th verse of the 47th chapter of the 10th canto and the 14th chapter of the Sannyāsa-līlā. So in Prema-vilāsa, Nityananda Das goes on to describe Mahaprabhu's words to Lokanath Goswami. Dariba tahara kanti pariba runavasana hoiba tanhara dasa anandita man. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says, my dear Lokanath, Dari Bitara Kanti, I'm going to adopt that complexion of Srimati Radharani. Puribe Aruna Basana, I'm going to take on that saffron color of separation. And by doing that, Haibe Tanhara Dasa, I'm going to become the servant of Radharani. And in that way, Anandita Man, I'm going to get so much happiness. It has a very, very deep purport, this verse. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Surupam. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but Radha Bhava, he's in the mood of Radha, and the kanti, the complexion of Radharani is there, because that kanti, that complexion is Madanakya Mahabhav. It's the color of the most intense love for Krishna. And that most intense love is Madanakya Mahabhav. And Srimati Radharani is Madanakya Mahabhava Mayi. She's a possessor of that love. So when Krishna wants to understand her feelings, that kanti, that complexion comes with it. And not only the complexion of Radharani, but Puribe Aruna Basana. I also have to accept that saffron color of separation. Just as Srimati Radharani became a sannyasini in madness and separation from me, and became my maidservant, as he told Lokanath Goswami, in separation from me, Amara Vichedi Pari Aruna Basana. In separation from me, Radharani wears a saffron colored dress. Apanaki Nija Dasi Mani Sarvakshan. And she thinks of herself always as my maidservant. So for me to repay my debt to her, I have to understand her feelings. This is a debt of love. It's not a debt of currency. It's not a debt of wisdom or knowledge. It's a debt of love, and I have to experience the same feelings that she has to repay my debt. So I have to adopt her complexion, because that complexion means her love. I have to wear that saffron-colored cloth. I have to take sannyas. I have to be akantic and one-pointed, because it begins, Gaura Lila begins with Gopinath. And therefore, in Jagannath Puri, there's so many deities of Gopinath, and Gopinath is very, very prominent. And our Goswamis have given this pranam mantra for Gopinath. Shriman Rasarasadam Bi Vamsi Vata Tatastita Karshan Venusunar Gopir Gopinath Shri Ishtanaha. That there at Vamsivat, Krishna began blowing on his flute. And when the gopis of Braj heard that flute song of Krishna, they gave up their children, they gave up their husbands, they gave up their parents, and they ran away from home. They took sannyas to go to Gopinath, to go to Krishna. So for Krishna to repay his debt to the gopis, he also has to run away. He also has to leave his mother. He has to leave his friends. So Mahaprabhu says, I'm going to adopt the complexion and saffron-colored cloth of separation. And that way I'll become the maidservant of Radharani, and then I'll get happiness. Elagi aruna basana divagai, japi batanhara guna kohilu tomai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Elagi aruna basana divagai. I'm going to wear that saffron cloth of separation on my body. And by doing that, Japi ba, I'm going to do my japa. Tanhara guna kahila tomai. I'm going to be singing the glorious qualities of Radha. But if you study Gaura Lila, Mahaprabhu's not chanting Radhe, Radhe. In the Caitanya-bhāgavata, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tells the devotees, Jadi Ama. He says, Jadi Ama pratisneha take sabakar. Tabi Krishna Vyati Rikta Nagahiveya. He says, if you really love me, you follow my instructions. Don't chant my name. Don't chant Gauranga's name. We do chant Gauranga's name sometimes. Sometimes we chant Gurudev's name. But that's not the kirtan of our sampradaya. The kirtan of our sampradaya is chanting the names of Krishna, because that's the japa that Radharani does. And Krishna himself, when he comes to taste the mood of Radha, Japi Batanhara Guna Kahile Tomai, I'm going to sing the glorious qualities of Radha. The meaning of this is I'm going to do the japa with the feelings of Radha. I'm going to chant my names. And therefore he's Sankirtanaika Pitaro. He's the father of the Sankirtan movement. And he's come to give his own names because he's in the mood of Radha. And Mahaprabhu goes on to tell Lokanath Goswami in Prema-vilāsa, Tanhara jateka guna nari basodite, Sata janma ayo jari hoya pritivite. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Guni prite tanrashtani, hayachi rini, Tomastani Lokanata Kailama Ami. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. It says, Tanara Jateka Gunanari Besodite. It's not possible for me to describe the wonderful glories of Radharani, even Sata Janma, Jadi Hoy Prithivi, even if I took birth 100 times in this world, I wouldn't be able to describe them all. Guni Priti Tanistan Hoy Yachirini. Lokanath Goswami, he says, by the love of Radha, she's put me in her debt. Jagat Basaiba Ami Tanra Jasa Kirti. Tabijani Kripa Mori Kori Mate. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Doing this kirtan of Srimati Radharani, Jagat Bhasaiva Ami Tandajasa Kirti. I'm going to flood the universe with Radharani's fame. What is Radharani's fame? Her yasa. Her yasa is Krishna Kirtan. That's the fame of Radharani. Her love for Krishna is her fame. And if I do that, he says, and Tabi Jani Kripa, I know, Kripa Mori Koni, she's going to give me her mercy. Because I want the mercy of Radha. I have to get the mercy of Radha. I have to repay my debt to Radha. Paiba Tanhara Prema Kandiba Noyane. Dulaya Dusara Hoya Nachiba Sankirtane. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. And if I get that prem, Paibatanara prem, then Kandi Binayani, I'm going to cry and cry. I'm going to begin dancing in Sankirtan. Dulaya Dusaya Hoya Nachiba Sankirtan. I'm going to dance in that Sankirtan. What is the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri? It's in the mood of Radharani because he has her prem. It's not an intellectual adjustment. Prabhupada said we should dance. I don't really feel like it this morning, 4:30 in the morning, Mangal Artik. It's really hard to get up. So I'll do the Swami step back and forth. Mahaprabhu was leaping in the air, spinning around. He was crying. Right? And he says, Dulaya Dusaya. I'm going to have dust all over my body, rolling on the ground in the mood of Radharani. And elsewhere, Krishna Mahaprabhu described that what is the significance of that dust? That's the dust coming from the feet of the devotees, coming from the feet of the gopis. And therefore he comes, this dust is very important. I have to roll in that dust and take the dust of Srimati Radharani's feet all over my body. And he concludes his song to his very confidential description to Lokanath Goswami. Iha boli fukariya khande gora roy, Radha Vrindavana boli dharani lotai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Iha boli fukariya, then very loudly, khande gora roy. And fukariya means that he cried out very loudly, and khande means to cry. Lord Gora Roy began to cry. And what was he crying? Radha Vrindavan, Radha Vrindavan, and Dharani Lotai. That he began to roll on the ground. So he's indicating to Lokanath Goswami that this is the purpose of my Sankirtan movement. I have to understand Radha. I have to understand the mood of Vrindavan. This is a secret of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's sannyāsa-līlā. This is the secret of this connection between the 47th chapter, the 10th canto, and the 14th chapter, the Ancha-līlā of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the song of the Kapalika yogi. And therefore the poet Basu Ghosh has sung, Jada Gora Nahoito Tobi Ki Hoito Kimoni Dari Tonde Radha Mahima Prema-vilāsa Singha Jagate Janato Ke Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Jada Gora Jada Gora na hoito, tabiki hoito. If Gauranga Mahaprabhu had not come, Kimoni Daritam Day, what would have become of us? How could we tolerate living? How could we have known who in the universe, Jagate Janatoke, who in the universe would ever have learned Radhara Mahima Prema-vilāsa Singha, about the topmost limits of ecstatic prema possessed by Srimati Radharani, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not come? How would we have ever understood this Bhramara-gītā? And therefore, this meeting of Uddhava with the gopis is so important. The Bhramara-gītā is there, and all of our acharyas have written commentaries on this. We'll be going through those commentaries further as we go along, as we inch along, in the words of Krishna Chaitra Maharaj, who was commenting to me about our classes recently. We're inching along. We'll go through those commentaries in this chapter and trying to understand the Uddhava Sandesh of Rupa Goswami and this Hamsa Dut. These are books which our Goswamis have written just speaking about this Bhramara-gītā. Kaviraj Goswami has given this 14th chapter, the Ancha-līlā, this Kapalika, the song of the Kapalika yogi, indicating this Bhramara-gītā. Such an important section, because it indicates the inner mood of Srimati Radharani in separation from Krishna, her madness in separation, and how Krishna himself, to repay his debt to the gopis, had to show them, no, I didn't send Uddhava just to console Yashoda. I didn't give you up. And to prove that, I'm going to give up my mother. And I'll come again as Nimai Pandit, and I'll give up Sachimata, and I'll take sannyas in the mood of Radha. And I'll go to Jagannath Puri, and I'll taste that inner mood of that Bhramara-gītā. So, this is our madness. I don't know if anybody can understand or appreciate this. I just had to say all this. For so many years, I've been meditating on this song of the Kapalika yogi and trying to understand it. And I wanted to say a few words about it. So I want to thank Ujjwala Rashiga and Brinda Sundari, Natalia, Brajabanito is here. And ask anybody if they have any reflections. Anapayani Radha is here also, good. And let's just go over some of the reflections from the devotees. Natalia in Estonia, she's commenting that Sachi Mata is a mother of the holy name. So lucky are those who remember her. Yes, we should don't be like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and give up his mother. Never give up Sachi Mata. Never give up your mother. And understand that Sachi Mata, she's the tongue of everyone. She's appeared as everyone's tongue. She's appeared in the form of the earth. She's given birth to the deity of Mahaprabhu, and in the form of the tongue, she's given birth to the holy name. So Natalia goes on, saffron is the color of separation because white clothes of Radharani become saffron after her tears mix with kumkum. Krishna wants to experience the same feelings and takes the complexion of her to become a kantak. He wants to sing a japa of Radha, his own names. This is kirtan of our sampradaya, because devotees of Gauranga want to experience the same feelings to understand their beloved. Yes, and to serve their beloved. Because ultimately the kirtan of our sampradaya means the gopis doing kirtan for Srimati Radharani and Uddhava Keri when Radharani wants to die in separation from Krishna. And to keep her alive, the gopis are surrounding her and doing kirtan of Krishna's names, and that keeps her alive. That kirtan is a kirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of our acharyas. It's a kirtan of our sampradaya, wanting to console Srimati Radharani and wanting to console Krishna, who's come in the mood of Radharani as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anapayani Radha's commented the yasha of Radharani, the fame of Radharani, is her kirtan, her love for Krishna. Yes. And Anapayani goes on, the purpose of the Sankirtan movement, I have to understand Radha. I have to understand the mood of Vrindavan. That's beautiful. Yes. But she has to do it from a distance. And therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here to Jagannath Puri, which is Gupta Vrindavan, which is a hidden chamber of Vrindavan, because he has to experience the feelings of separation of Radharani. And when Krishna goes, as Mahaprabhu, when he goes to Vrindavan, then that Vrindavan is a place of milan, or union. And when he goes there feeling the mood of Radharani, then Krishna appears, because when Radharani starts doing her kirtan, then Krishna has to come. So when he goes in a very esoteric way doing kirtan in the mood of Radha, then his complexion becomes blackish at that place known as Imli Tal on the bank of the Jamuna. And so he thinks, I have to leave Vrindavan. I have to go to a place which has two things. It's Vrindavan but not Vrindavan. Two opposites in one container, and that's Jagannath Puri. So thank you, Anapayani, for understanding that, and I very much appreciate it. Natalia also, I'm very inspired by your reflections. It's very good you've understood these things. Thank you, dear devotees. If anybody else has any other reflections, you can type that in, or anybody here in the room. Krishna Kun has some comment. Just turn the microphone.
Actually, my two reflections were exactly what Natalia and Anapayani said, but I do want to add something. That a few days ago, when I was chanting my morning prayers, Jayati Janani Vaso Devaki Jammavado, as we get up and we chant that prayer. And of course that prayer finishes by, may Krishna be all glorious and happy. And we were talking a little bit with my husband, because he's so much into this Kurukshetra Lila mood. And he said, so what does that mean? May he be all glorious. He becomes glorious when he can experience, he becomes victorious when he can experience Radharani's love and show the gopis and Srimati Radharani's glory to the whole world by himself experiencing it and by giving this love to everybody else. So I was really struck by that comment, and it's very nice for me now, because when I chant this verse, then I don't only think about Radha and Krishna, I also think about Mahaprabhu. And connected to this, I was extremely struck a few days ago. I read in Krishna book that Prabhupada defines pranaya, which Krishna book. I really didn't think that Srila Prabhupada is speaking about pranaya and different stages of love in Krishna book, but he does. He says, this is in the Yagyapatni chapter, the chapter about the wives of the Yagya Brahmins. When a lover submits to his lover without any pinch of personal consideration, that is called oneness. And this oneness is the Agudev often stresses that this oneness is the requisite requirement for experiencing supreme happiness in rasa. And Gurudev explains that you can't experience really rasa unless there is oneness. And so Krishna didn't have this as Krishna. He had to come as Mahaprabhu to experience Radharani's feelings. And that's why that mellow was unripe, and that's why Gurudev speaks so much about this. So just wanted to add that. Thank you so much.
Yes. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's victory means Radharani's victory, because we're always happy when Radharani defeats Krishna. We're on Radharani's side. Linda Sundari's commented, amazing how Radharani's clothing, color choices are her moods. Very amazing thing. It's a very nice thing for the pujaris to meditate on also. We don't generally like to dress Radharani in white cloth, although on Mondays that's the color and many temples do. But there's some purport to those things, and different days of the week have different colors which indicate different moods. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop there, and when we come back, again next Tuesday, if Krishna allows us to come back again, we're going to go on to the 5th verse of the 47th chapter, inching away in this section. So thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Anupayani just made a quick comment, I'll read. Thank you, dear Krishna Kond. Such an important meditation on Jayati Janani Vasa verse. I'm taking it with me. Thank you, Anupayani. Anupayani's there at Govardhan Hill now. You say some prayer to Giriraj for us today, Anupayani. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much. Vancha kalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhubhye cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Ananda Koti Vaishnava Brinda ki